We know you ain't always 100%. You ain't always gonna hit record. You know, sometimes you wait and be like, is this the moment he's getting into it? Maybe we, maybe we should start. Okay, I'm gonna go. So it really has what I'm about to share with you today really has been one of the most i- important tools that I've had in closing deals, closing bigger deals. What's great about it too is that it's very simple. It's very easy to follow. And like I said, what we've been talking about so far is all of these things that are marketing related. How do you get people into the door? How do you get the rebookings? We talked about that. How do you reach out to new cold audiences that don't know you? But there's a very important component to this that some of us are just frankly not really good at. What actually happens when you get people on the phone? What do you actually do once they go, oh my gosh, yes, and I do want to book you to speak. Oh my gosh, let's set up a phone call. And then you have the phone call. What do you do? What do you say? Now, what's so funny about sales calls is that for some people, they go, oh, don't worry, they'll take care of themselves. And I personally never navigated that way. I always wanted to like have a very specific, I know what I'm getting myself into. So there's a system, and I've done lots and lots of sales trainings that I have built from lots of different people that I believe genuinely is the, I don't want to say the best. I'll say this, it's the best system for me, right? Other people might have different sales scripts, other people might have different sales philosophies. And I think with sales, all of them are valid, right? If there was one way to grow a business, we'd be all doing it that one way. What I'm going to share with you is what I do. It's how I understand how to make deals bigger. It's how I understand budgets. It's how I never, ever come across as salesy, pushy. And here's the best thing about what I'm about to share with you today. This system, this structure will actually have your clients closing themselves on the call. I know that might sound like a big thing, but I promise you, after I show you this, you'll see exactly how it works. So imagine jumping on a phone with someone, asking a specific series of questions in a very specific way that you literally talk 15, maybe 20% of the time, maybe that much, maybe even less. Your client is asked questions in a specific sequence that closes the deal because they close the deal, and they're actually almost asking you for like the contract, right? So I'm going to show you exactly how it works. I'm going to give you the psychology behind it. I won't go too deep into like all of the triggers. If you're really, I geek out about this stuff. So if anybody is like, no, I really want you to go deep into it, I'm happy to, but I also don't want to like glaze people's eyes over of like too much technicality. So I'm going to try to find that balance with you. I'm going to give you access to everything that I'm showing you here today as a benefit of being a pro user. And I'm going to make sure that if you have any questions, I will answer them at the end of our session. So with that said, in the chat, if you're ready to get started, somebody give me a yes. If you're ready to jump in today, I'm really excited about this. I'm getting let's do it. I gotta go. Yes. Someone's drinking a healthy drink. I don't know what you're drinking there, Leslie. That looks healthy. I like it. I usually drink whiskey in the middle of the day, so I like what you're drinking. That looks way better. Someone says Cocoa Puffs. I'm not sure what that means, Joe. Joe saying Cocoa Puffs. I don't know what that means. Okay. Odell says, yep. All right, so let's jump in. So I want to show you this document. And for any of you who've ever heard me talk about the Super Sales Highway before, I want to go a little bit deeper into it. I think this is going to be very valuable. So if you have ever been in any environment where I've spoken about this before, I'm going to go deeper into it today in a way that probably I haven't. And it's going to be really helpful too. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, there's that. Wonderful. Okay, just for my sanity, can you all see my screen right now? Just give me a thumbs up if you see my screen. Okay, great. So what I call this is the Super Sales Highway. Why do I call it a highway? Because when you drive on a highway, you drive in a straight line, okay? You don't have to make any turns. You don't have to do anything special. You just got to drive in a straight line. And as you drive, you'll see exits. So each one of these things we're going to go over today, I want you to think of them as an exit. That when you get to the last step of this, the last exit, you've arrived at your destination. You're going to close deals much more quickly. You're going to have people championing for you. And here's the best part. You just follow the thing. There's no scripts here. There's no, like, there's some things I recommend saying word for word, but really there's no scripting. It's just understanding how the super sales highway works, understanding why you're asking what you're asking. And then I'll give you the specific questions that I use. And if you'd like to use them word for word, of course you can. But here's how it works. The first step is called bonding and rapport. You do this naturally. We move into the intention of the meeting. This is the key. This is the secret sauce, if you will. This step here is super big. I'll explain why in a moment. I'm just giving you the overview today. Then we go into the discovery portion of it, right? So we're going to discover why they need you, what their pain points are, and they're going to discover it for themselves. You're going to do a summary of what you've uncovered. You're going to find out what their budget is. You're going to get to understand the decision-making process, and you're going to get a clear next step. I'm going to show you how all of this works. Now, this is an image that I like to have up in front of me. So if I'm doing a sales call, I actually will have this image in front of me so I'll know where it is. I've done this so long that I'll be very transparent. I don't have this image anymore because I can do what I'm about to share with you pretty much in my sleep. And it's not because I'm a ninja in any way, because it's just because I've done it for like a really long time, right? And it's been literally the same structure I've used. It's the structure that I teach to my team so that they can do these sales calls. And you can take someone who sucks at sales, who gets super nervous about sales, and literally turn them into a sales rock star. And all they have to know is these steps. So I'm gonna go over what each step is and answer any questions you might have along the way. So the first exit, so when I say exit one, this is the very first thing that happens. The very first thing that happens on any phone call is small talk, okay? So let's say I'm having a conversation with Lisa. Lisa, will you bear with, I just saw your face here. Would you mind unmuting yourself, Lisa? You've got like a very nice microphone.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna randomly call on people. So just know that if you're here, I'm gonna randomly call on you, but just to get a sense of it in real time. So my small talk usually sounds something like this. Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Is the sun shining where you are yet? Where in the world are you?
I'm in the Dallas area. Yeah, it's partly cloudy, but it's nice.
Okay, well, if you're in Dallas, you're almost always getting sun. I'm in the Northeast, so I'm always jealous whenever I talk to people in Texas. So I hope you are enjoying the clouds because you always get the sun.
Yes.
So I'm going to pause there. Thank you very much, Lisa, right? I personally, if I don't know what to say, I always go to the weather. Now, I happen to live in the Northeast. I live in upstate New York. So for whatever reason, weather is the most simplest, easiest bonding and rapport thing to talk about. So I always say, is the sun shining where you are? Where in the world are you? And people will typically look out the window when I say that. And they'll go, oh my gosh, yes, it is. Or they'll say, no, it's gray, blah, blah, blah. And I always like, no matter what they say, by the way, I'll never make my area sound better than theirs. This is very important. I could live in Hawaii and I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, well, I live in Hawaii and it's 72 degrees here, no humidity, I would never want someone to feel bad. So I always say that wherever they are is better than where I am, right? Now, for frame of reference, I love where I live. It's not like I actually dislike it, but I always, when I'm doing my small talk, I'm complimenting them. The reason why that's an important part of this bonding and rapport phase is because that complimenting creates what's called liking. They start to like you. I always defer. It doesn't matter. You could say, I'm in the middle of Siberia. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I love snowboarding. You must have the best snowboarding in Siberia. It's like, I can find a reason to love anywhere. Now, mind you, that's true for me. Like, I'm not lying when I say, like, I don't recommend any of you lie. If you really hate the cold, find something else to say. Like I personally, like you could put me in a room with a cardboard box and a pencil and I'll have a great time. My imagination will run wild. So anyway, I like to talk about the weather. If I know of something else to talk about, I will. But this only lasts for like 1 or 2 minutes. You don't want to go into a 20-minute, oh my gosh, and have you been like snowboarding yet? Oh my gosh, and then go into a 20-minute snowboarding like thing. Like this is a quick connection. I'm a human, you're a human. We're having a human-to-human connection. Now, if they say something else that's not weather related, feel free to go with it. Like I had a call with someone today And they told me that they had just gotten back from a business retreat in Singapore. And they said, oh, I'm jet lagged. And I was like, oh my gosh, Singapore. So we talked very quickly about Singapore. We talked very quickly about jet lag. But it was a very, we're connecting as humans first. Again, this is 1, 2, 3 minutes. This is not very long, okay? Now, this is super important. Exit 2, in my opinion, is the most crucial part of this entire strategy. The intention of the meeting. Here's what you do not want to do. You do not want to be in a position where you have to pitch yourself. The moment you are pitching yourself, you've already lost the sales conversation. So a lot of people think, well, I need to show them all of the reasons why I'm good at what I do. So let me tell you about my background, and let me tell you about my education, and let me tell you, and you start going into, and the thing is, you might be answering questions that they don't have. And if you're ever answering questions they don't have, you're boring them. I only want to answer questions that are relevant to them. So if you imagine kind of like a pitchfork, excuse me, not a pitchfork, a fork in the road, right? Exit 2 is the moment either you're gonna close the deal or you're gonna blow the deal. How do you gain control to show the person that you're speaking to that you're a professional, that they should respect you, that they should care for you? You set the intention of the meeting. It sounds something like this, okay? Lisa, I'm gonna go back to you. I'm just gonna keep going back. I don't know. No, I'll switch it up so Lisa doesn't feel so. Okay, Ann, I'm gonna go to you. I'll leave Lisa alone. Ann, would you mind unmuting yourself? Okay, so me and you were talking. Let's assume we just bantered and we just did how's the weather? Oh my gosh, your hat's amazing. You probably got the best hair. How do you get your hair to do all those things? It's so cool. I have no hair. We did that, right? Then I go, so this is how I take control at this important junction. I go, Ann, so here's what I'm hoping we're gonna do today. I know you got some questions for me. I'm happy to answer every single one of your questions, but I have some questions for you. So what I'd love to do is ask you my questions. And then once I have a better sense of what's happening with you, let you ask me whatever you want to ask me. And the only thing we have to decide from here and figure out today is if it makes sense for us to keep talking. Does that sound good?
Good.
Okay, that right there, that's the most important moment. And I cannot stress this moment enough. If I banter with Ann or Lisa or whomever, and then they ask me, well, tell me more about your speaking. If they ask me the questions first, I've immediately lost control of the sales call. Immediately I've lost control of it. This is an old truism for anyone who's a sales expert. The person asking the questions is in control, not the person talking. This is very important. The person asking the question. So what I want to do is set the tone that I'm going to answer any questions that they have. I'm going to be very specific for them, but I've got questions for them first. And then this is key. The only thing we have to decide today, the only thing we have to figure out today is if it makes sense for us to continue talking. Does that sound good? It's a low commitment. No one in the history of, I think, ever has ever said no to that question. Right. So if I say, Ann, the only thing you got questions, I'm happy to answer them. I've got some questions I would like to ask them to get a sense of what's going on. The only thing we have to decide if it's worth continuing talking from here. Does that sound good? Everyone says yes. No one in the history of the world is gonna be like, no, I don't want to do that. Right. So the moment Ann or whomever I'm speaking to says good, it's important that I start asking my questions. Okay. I have to go into what's called the discovery stage. So the moment Ann says good, I go, great. So why don't we start with letting me know about what's happening at your organization, right? It's very important that I take control and start asking questions, because if I say great and then I pause, Ann's probably gonna start asking me questions. Now, here's what's fascinating. Let's say I say good, and then Ann beats me to the punch and starts asking questions. So Ann, feel free to unmute yourself and then say okay, great. Tell me more about why we should bring you as this. Just assume you beat me to the punch. Okay. So I go, the only thing we have to decide from here is if it makes sense for us to keep talking. Does that sound good?
Good. So how many times have you spoken in the veterinary industry?
Oh, such a great question. Happy to answer that question. So, real quick, before I jump into that, your particular veterinary group, I don't really know much about it because I've worked with lots of different folks. Could you tell me, do you focus more with the doctors or just the veterinary assistants?
The assistants mostly.
Oh, okay, great. So this conference is for the assistants, is that right?
Yeah, that's totally correct.
Perfect. Wonderful. Wonderful. So, how many years have you, just out of curiosity, how many years have you done this? Okay, so I'm going to pause there for a second. Whenever someone asks you a question, if they've taken control, you actually start to answer the question. The moment you start to answer the question, they actually go into a trance, believe it or not. Now, if you want me to go into the deep psychological stuff of this, I can. But what they do is they go into passive mindset. They've taken control. How many times have you spoken to the veterinary department? Oh, great question. I'm so happy to answer that because I've done a lot of work in this space. So now it looks like I'm about to answer the question, and then I actually about face it, and then I ask them a question. And the moment I about face it and ask them a question, I've now regained control. Now, here's what's fascinating. Our fear, if we reverse it, is that the person we're speaking to is going to say, "Come on, buddy, tell me how many people you've spoken to. You got my question." No one's ever done that. No one. And if they ever will, no one's ever done that to me. They won't do it to you. If they ever do that, that's a sign that they're probably a jerk and you're not going to enjoy working with them. Right? Like this, it's really, really important. So what you actually want to do is start asking the question. Start answering their question and then go, "Oh my gosh, how many times have I spoken to the pharmaceutical industry?" Such a great question. I think it's a very, very important question. You know, real quick, just out of curiosity, are we dealing with executives or frontline staff at your particular conference? Because that's going to help me better answer your question. So what I'm doing is I'm answering it, getting them into the receptive mode, and then I'm throwing it back. And here's what's fascinating. When you throw it back at them, you might actually see people's brains fry for a second. And what I mean by fry is they may go, bless you. They might go, oh, it's because they're not actually expecting to be active. So the brain goes into active mode and passive mode. So when you watch like a play, like on Broadway, your mind is in passive mode. When you're doing a speech, your mind is in active mode. Switching between those two cognitive modes, it takes time. So when you throw a question at someone, you're actually flipping it, and they almost might even forget the question that they asked you. No one has ever said, "Okay, can you answer my question now?" I start going down my questions, and they just answer them because the mind switches more into the fact that I'm asking questions. So anyway, now, so that's just a little like aside if someone takes control. So we start wide. So whenever I start, I always say, "Tell me a little bit about," this is my like line. You can use it if you want, but I find it works really well. I say, "Hey, look, you've got your boots on the ground every day at your organization. I'm not there. Tell me more about it. Why are you doing this event? Why is it important to you? Just give me a 10,000 foot view of what's happening with your group. You have the boots on the ground. Give me the 10,000 foot view." Those are phrases that I've developed that have worked really well, because what that's saying is, you know more than you're the expert of your company, organization, college, university. I'm not. Tell me what's going on. And then they're going to start well, we're having a professional development, a staff retreat, a conference, or whatever it is. They're going to start telling you about what their thing is. And your job is to listen and start asking questions that's going to get to this. Why are they doing this event? Why is it important to them now? What are their goals with it? And how much pain, and this is the key word, how much pain are they experiencing right now? Now, this is where I hope you're all good people. I hope you're all good people, because what I'm about to say with you can be used for good or bad. It's like the Force. You can be a Jedi or you can be a Sith. The Force is still the same. The more pain someone has, the more money you can make. The less pain someone has, the less money you can make. Okay. So, for example, we have a client that said, "We just got this huge grant. It's super important that we hit these grant objectives because this funding is literally paying for 20 people's new jobs. And we've got to do a kickoff event that's going to be really, really, really big to show that this grant money is being well used." So I heard some, and I got to be very receptive. And this, like, you'll build this skill over time. Okay, she just said they got a grant. They just said there's 20 jobs that are on the table, and they're saying it's got to be a big kickoff. I now want to, and again, I say this gently, I want to understand how much I should twist the knife. Oh my gosh, you just got a grant and there's 20 people's jobs? Are you one of those people? Yeah, my job. Like, literally, I have this job because of the grant. Oh my gosh, that must be a lot of pressure then. Oh, it's so much pressure. You kind of become a therapist. Oh my gosh, that must be very big, right? And if they go, no, it's really not that big of a deal, I move in a new direction. If they say, yes, it is a big deal, I continue to go down that path to truly understand how much pain are we talking about. Oh my gosh, so how big? So you're saying that this event is going to be a really big kickoff. Tell me more. What would happen if this event doesn't go well? Oh my gosh, it would be the worst thing in the world. What happens if it does go well? Oh, it'd be the best. So I dig deeper into the pain. So my first question is, tell me 10,000 foot view, boots on the ground, what's happening? And then based on what they tell me, I look for pain. Now, for any of you who thinks that sounds mean, just know I'm doing this because if they have a pain, I want to help solve it. If I genuinely believe I can help them, understanding that they're in pain is important. 99% of people never tell you the pain they're in with your first question. You need to ask follow-up questions to understand that pain more deeply. So I'm just gonna choose a random person. Lois, you're an expert at all things speaking. Do you mind if
I'm with you.
All right, so I'm gonna go down my discovery phone call. I want you to just imagine you're a generic event conference organizer throwing an event. Maybe think of an event you've done in the past. I'm just gonna ask you some questions, and then you just go in whichever direction you think feels like right for you to go. So, do you have an event in mind that you could play a generic event coordinator for?
No, but I'll make something up.
Okay, so let's do, you are doing a management training for your credit union managers, and you're doing an offsite, and you're the person who's choosing the speaker to do the professional development piece for the managers of the credit union. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, and then, you can make up if it's an annual event, it's the first event, just go anywhere you want with it. So Lois, you keep your boots on the ground with your organization. I don't really know what's happening at XYZ Credit Union, but I know you do. Why don't you tell me about the event, your goals, why you're doing it? Just kind of give me a 10,000 foot view of what's happening.
Well, it's a leadership meeting. We're finding some challenges leading a virtual workforce.
Tell me more about that.
Well, we have some people who come in the office every day, some people a couple of days, some people who are totally virtual. And it's hard to keep a rapport, to keep people engaged, keep people on task. And so we're looking for some ways that our leaders might be able to adopt some new strategies to do that.
Got it. And, with that in person, out of the office and not connecting, how is that showing up? Like, what kind of things are showing up that you're noticing from your perspective?
Confusion. People aren't communicating as well because they don't have the opportunity. Maybe we need to help create some more opportunities for people to be engaged, but we're finding communication is what we're challenged by.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, that confusion part is, folks don't know what to do. They typically do nothing, and that's not what you're in the business of doing. You're in the business of helping people. That's what credit unions do. So when you say the communication, tell me more about that. I just tell me what that means from you. Like, what does communication mean to improve on your side?
Well, lots of times people don't know what each other is doing in the process. And I think that our process can be confusing in-house. And so I think that our leaders need to adopt a little bit more clarity around process.
Yeah. So am I hearing that a lot of the departments are siloed? So this group is doing their thing, this group is, but they don't know what they're doing, and that's causing some challenges. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, but even the groups that are siloed, Errol, sometimes they just aren't communicating. They don't have the opportunity that they used to have sitting next to each other.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pause there. Thank you very much, Lois, for participating. I'm gonna pause there. I want you to notice a couple of things that I was doing, and why that's important. Every time Lois said there was a problem, I always affirmed, oh yeah, I get that. Ah, that's tough. No, tell me, okay, and that's another phrase that I love personally. If you want to use it, you can. Tell me more. I never assume I understand a situation fully. It's always tell me more. So if someone says, oh, we have communication issues, a lot of people go, okay, they have a pain point, communication issues. I go, tell me more. Well, what about that? Because I want Lois, in this case, my quote unquote Lois, to become more aware of the problems that she's actually experiencing day to day. What am I, oh my gosh, and I want her to feel the emotions of, it's annoying when there's confusion. It's annoying when the folks within the silo, they're siloed, yes, but the people within the silo aren't even communicating. I want her to tell me what's happening, and every time she tells me, I'm always going, yeah, no, I get that. I'm affirming that's a problem. Yes. Tell me more about that. And by doing so, it's helping them uncover that there is a problem. Now, the more that they give me, the more I'm able to ask questions. Well, how is that affecting you? Well, when did that start? You know, and then I go to what's called this is my magic wand question. So right here, this is my favorite question in the whole wide world to answer. If you said to me, Arel, I don't feel comfortable doing the diving deeper. I don't know if I have that skill set. This is the only question you would ever need to ask. Now, I do recommend asking questions before this one to get a full picture of it. But if you ever freaked out, to me, this is the perfect question to ever ask. It goes like this. Let me ask you a question. Let's say I could give you a magic wand and you could wave this magic wand over our event. What result would you want your ex, in this case I put students, what result would you want your managers, would you want to see in your managers to make you feel like this was the absolute perfect event and produce the absolute perfect results for you right now? So what this is basically saying is, I want you now in your mind to tell me what's perfect. Now, this is why this is such a wildly important question for two reasons. The first thing that this question does is it allows the person to paint the picture of the ideal situation, and it puts them into a positive state. So imagine Lois, and I'm going to just assume Lois might say something like this in this case. Oh my gosh, my perfect situation is that our managers within the department would be communicating with each other more strongly. The intra departments would be communicating. They wouldn't be afraid to go up to people. They'd be excited about it. People would want to come back to the office instead of choosing to work from home. Like if we're talking magic wand, that would be amazing. Now, if I can do that, I want to be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what my program does. I'm so excited that you said that. When I was listening to you speak, I got so excited because my program literally shows X, Y, and Z that's going to address that exact problem. Now, by me doing that, there's a lot, and I'm not going too deep into the cycle. I'll go a little bit into this, but I won't go too deep into it. Number one, by them painting the picture of their perfect situation, what they're also doing is getting the reality that they're not living in that perfect situation. So it also, at the same time, puts me in an ideal mental state. At the exact same time, it also makes me realize I'm not in it and I feel bad and I don't want to be in it. This is the other thing. This is a purely deep human need, is we desire to feel heard. Why is your best friend your best friend? I bet you it's because they listen to you. I'm willing to bet anything. Who is the person you love more than anything else in this world? I'm willing to bet that's the person that listens to you. People can tell you what to do all day, every day, but truly, when we feel heard, when we feel understood, there's almost no better human to human feeling. Like you could say love, sex, and all that stuff, but truly connection, feeling understood is very special. When you're around people and you feel truly understood by them, it's magical. Now, how do you make someone feel understood? You ask them questions and you shut up and you listen. So by doing this discovery process the correct way, by asking the magic wand question, you're hearing them, you're helping them feel understood. And then when they go through everything, well, hold on, I jumped the gun a little bit. When I said I'm perfect, that's actually the next step. And I jumped the gun a little bit. When I say, oh, only if your program is perfect, do you say that? Only, you should never lie. If I can't help you, I shouldn't say I can help you. Only if I can't help you. But what I'm doing is I'm asking questions and they're giving me their answers. And I'm saying, what's this challenge? Tell me more. I pull out the magic wand question. And then I ask this question when I'm done gathering all my details. This is the magic question that I recommend asking as close to verbatim as you can, but it doesn't have to be verbatim. Thank you so much for giving me all this information. Are there any questions I should be asking that I haven't asked yet? Okay. Are there any questions I should be asking that I haven't asked yet? This does one of two things. The first thing it does is the person will say, no, I think you covered everything. They've just affirmed that you are thorough and you've completed everything and you've uncovered every problem. They've identified this for themselves. They said, no, you've got everything. This was great. The second thing that could happen is they go, oh my gosh, I didn't tell you about this. There's a new merger and acquisition that's coming and blah, blah. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me. That's super important. Now I'm thorough because I've covered everything. Does that make sense? They answer that question. I go, is there anything else? No, I think you, so that's the thing. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Did we not cover? So I want to make sure that they feel like I have heard them completely, okay? Then I move into exit 4, which is a summary of the discovery results. So a pro tip that I recommend is writing down what the person is saying when they're saying it to you in as close to the language that they've used. Don't summarize it with your words, use their words. So if Lois said, the managers within the offices aren't communicating each other. Some people are stuck at home and like I'm writing this down as they're doing it with notes. I prefer pen and paper personally, because like if you're typing on your phone, sometimes it could look like you're distracted, or if you're typing on your keyboard, it could clickety clack, clickety clack, clickety clack. But if I'm writing on paper, it actually makes people feel like you're interviewing them to an extent. Susan, yes.
Yeah, so I've been doing something sneaky in my sales calls, and I do it just because, you know, just like when you call the bank, like your call will be recorded for customer service and training purposes. I was like, of me. So I record my conversations with my sales prospects, but really it's to get the transcript from Otter or from Zoom. And I lift the language specifically. I put it in the written proposal. And even if it's like a day or two after the conversation, people have come back and said, she's the only one who really heard me. She's the only one who really got it, you know, and we interviewed all these other speakers, but she really listened to us. And it's just the word for word. And marriage counseling didn't help me understand that you need to give the word for word back rather than the processing. But that experience of using the exact language was a game changer.
That's exactly right. Susan, I cannot co-sign what you're saying more, because when you use their language, that makes people feel like you get me.
Right.
If I use my language to describe you, I might hear what you're saying totally differently. But if you use my language, then you get me. Now, this is the other magic phrase. Some people get concerned and go, oh my gosh, but Susan, if you record it and use it word for word, aren't they going to feel like you're parroting them? Aren't they going to feel like you're copying them? No, it never happens. It's the complete opposite. Like Susan said, they feel heard. Now, it's actually a really great point. If you do it on Zoom and you record it and you get your Otter transcript, you're using their exact language as best you can. Because I'm usually like taking notes, but like, you know, and I'm going to show you what's called a pain recap email in a moment. Using their exact language in a pain recap email or a proposal is like, mwah, chef's kiss. It's the best. So thank you for that, Susan. I think if anyone's not doing it, you know, I'm going to start doing that when I do Zoom, because honestly, I think that's really smart. So I'm going to repeat back to them everything that they just said to me as close to their language as possible. So it sounds like this. All right, Lois, if I heard everything that you had to say, you have your manager retreat for your credit union. You have folks that are off-site and on-site, and there's been lots of confusion. So that confusion is leading to a little lack of productivity, lack of that environment that you'd want to feel. And then people don't have their communication system set up. They aren't doing this, they aren't doing that, and this is causing this pain. And if you had a magic wand, you would want to see them doing this, that, feeling the blah, 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 this and that. Did I get that all right, Lois? And then hopefully she goes,
It's like you're part of my brain, Errol.
Yes, right. Oh, you're a part of my. I go, oh, perfect. And if I miss anything, I go, did I miss anything? And it goes, oh, yes. And I go, ah, perfect. Did I get everything? I need them to go, yes, because this is, I don't want to call it a secret, but I think it's as close to a secret as can be. If you just explain someone's pain in enough details, they automatically assume that you know how to solve the problem. So this is the example that someone gave me that I thought was really smart. Let's say you have a pain in your elbow and it doesn't go away. And you're walking and this pain is bothering you and you go to the doctors and the doctors cannot seem to figure out how to get this pain in your elbow to go away. And you're walking down the street and you talk to someone about this pain in your elbow and a random person goes, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but you said you have a pain in your elbow. Is that right? Yeah, I do. Just out of curiosity, when you open your hand, does the pain shoot into your pinky? Oh my gosh, yes. And sometimes when you roll on the left side, does the pain go into your ear? Oh my God, yes, that's exactly what it does. And then when you're like walking around, it could be totally normal and you can lift up something that is light, but all of a sudden it feels super heavy. Does that ever happen to you? Oh, that's exactly what happens to me. What do you automatically assume if someone can describe your pain exactly how you're experiencing it? Well, the next question is, well, how do I get rid of it? And this person's not a doctor. They don't have a certificate on their wall. They're just a rando in the street. But if you can understand someone's pain better than they can understand it themselves or articulate it the way they need to, then they feel you understand them. So I repeat their pains back to them exactly how they say it to me. I say, is that all right? They say yes. And then what I say is, you know what? This is right here. Okay. Now, again, like change this however you want to change it. This is just the gist of it. You know what? When I was listening to you speak, I was getting really, really excited because everything you talked about is exactly what we specialize in and have done for countless other programs like yours. Our event's been specially crafted after working with hundreds of thousands of people to do just what you're looking for. What questions do you have for me? Now, this is big. I never said this is the title of my presentation. I never said this is what my program description is. I never said this is like this. All I said was exactly the pain you have is exactly the pain that we solve. Now, I will tell you something that I don't know if I should be embarrassed about or excited about. I have been booked to speak and paid to speak thousands of times. I don't know. I haven't really quantified it. I've been doing it, let's see, at least 1,000 times. At least 1,000 times. Do you know how many people in the sales process ask me for a title and description of my program? I can count them on one hand. I can count them on one hand. It almost never happens because if they assume that I know their problem and they can solve it, they're actually already sold. They actually ask for the title and description after the contract's been signed. Oh, we got to put a program into our thing. What is it? Right? Like sometimes literally like they won't ask for it because they just go, you understand me. Now, if you've done this process correctly, you say all your problems are the exact problems we solve. What questions do you have for me? We go on to budget 5. Now, exit 5, which is the budget. Now, if you've done this thoroughly, they should have no questions for you except how much does it cost? If you've done this correctly, they should be like, well, how much is it? How do we afford you? How do we bring you in? If they do have questions, answer them. Whatever questions they might have at this point. Well, we need a program that deals with, we're dealing with veterinary science. How many times have you done veterinary work? Great question. Here's how many times I've done it. Then you just answered at that point. So you've addressed what their problems are, open it up for them. Again, if you do this correctly, you'll notice people almost have no questions for you except how much does it cost? Now, when they say how much does it cost, this is really, really important. I recommend creating your budget according to, okay, let me take a step, hold on, let me take a step back. Because there's a little nuance here. You should know what your speaking fee is. You should have a speaking fee that you quote, okay? If anyone is newer and they're like, Aurel, I don't know what to quote, I recommend using a strategy that's called ball in your court. So ball in your court means asking them what their budget is. I do my best to work within the budgets of my clients, and I know budgets can be very, very different. Would you mind sharing with me in round numbers, what budget do you have allocated for a speaker? So if I didn't have an answer for my budget, that's how I ask it. I put it in their court, and then I have them say something, right? I should know what my budget is. I should know like what I want to charge. Now, if when I spoke to them, I heard things like, we have a huge grant and we need to do lots of programs. Or I heard something like, there's a huge pain and we're doing a merger and acquisition. We're gonna have 10 new offices. If I actually hear their pains, I'm going to present a solution to them that is in measure with the pain that we're trying to solve. Maybe that's them booking. So I can say, like, let's say, one of the things that I've been doing, this is a whole other presentation, which I'm happy to go into. We've been doing multiple sessions instead of one when we work with companies. So instead of a company bringing me in for one speech, we position it like this. Listen, we can do one talk, and that one talk is going to be really, really, really good. But let me ask you this. Do you really want to make change, or do you just want to do a program? Well, what do you think they're going to say? No, of course we really want to make change. Well, we have this 5 series. We have these 5 programs that we do. Most companies choose to go with the 5 program option because each program builds off of each other. And then I walk them through our 5 programs and how they build off of each other. So typically what we're doing is, and there's a lot of, I'm getting ahead of myself, I apologize. If it's appropriate, only if it's like a conference, an association, then they're just bringing me for a keynote. It's not appropriate for me to say, book me for 5. But if it's a company, and that company could do multiple professional developments, like once a quarter, well, why wouldn't they want to work with me if it's good, right? And then with your Talkadot data, you can demonstrate that it was good, so they should bring you back, right? But here's what we do. We say, do you want to make real change, or do you just want to do this program? And then most people say, well, of course we want to make real change. Well, and then this is called, what is it called? I'm forgetting what it's called. Someone, you know this. What's the thing in Robert Cialdini's book where if everyone's doing it, then they want to do it as well? Oh, Lord have mercy. It's like everyone's doing it. Everyone.
Like the herd mentality.
Yeah, it's not. It's in Cialdini's book. God, I can't remember. It's like that. Social
proof.
What is it?
Social proof.
It's not social proof exactly. It's gonna come to me. It's gonna drive me nuts. But basically what it's saying is, if everyone else is doing it, then it's okay for me to do it as well. So if I say, hey, look, most of the companies we work with, they choose the 5 programs because, and I do that. So I said to them, most people we work with choose the 5 programs. So they're not going out on a limb if they actually want to do the 5 programs. They're going, oh, well, that's what most people do. And then I walk them through, so we could either do one program, which is totally fine. It's going to be very effective. Or we can do all 5 and like make real change. Which one do you think is a better fit for you? Now, this is what's important. I recommend having a which one, not a here's my speaker fee. Why? Because you move their answer from which one do I want instead of yes or no. Does that make sense? So if I say my speaker fee is $10,000, I'm either going to say yes to it or no to it. Does that make sense? But if I say, hey, we can either do this one program or we can do 5 programs, which one do you think is a better fit for your goals? I let them choose. So if they say, hey, I think the one program is better. I don't think like we're in a position to do 5. Okay, great. That one program is, and then I tell them what the price is, okay? If they say the 5, I then build the value up of what it would be. Like if you did these 5 individually, it would be this huge number, but by doing them all 5, you get this great big discount, right? So, and I can give you the language right here. This is an example. So you have option 1. So I always build the value up, right? So option 1 is all inclusive. We cover all travel, all lodging. You don't have to worry about booking my airfare. You don't have to worry about, reimbursing any of my receipts for like hamburgers or anything like that, like other people might do. So I build up that it's all inclusive. And if they're doing the one program, so I build up the value of it, and then I say it's just, and then you quote whatever your fee is, 10,000, 5,000, 15,000, right? So it's just, boom, right? Because it's like, it's simplified. Because like, here's all this pain. Here's all the things you're going to get. I'm going to include all these things. And it's just $10,000, $5,000, whatever your number is, right? You quote it. And at this point, this is the hardest thing you're going to have to do the entire phone call. Shut up. So you quote your price. You say, hey, do you want to do the one program or the 5 program? Well, I think we want to do the one program. Ah, perfect, one program. So if you want to do one program, the way it works is it's all inclusive. So what that means is I cover all my travel, all my lodging. You get pre-event support from my support team. We're going to give you flyers. We're going to give you social media images. We're going to give you promotional emails that you can send as well. We give you all of our templates that you can use for your program. If you need us to do any type of promotional video, we're happy to do a custom video for you as well. My team is going to meet with you a few times before our event to make sure we fully understand the logistics and fully understand what your needs are. So if anything changes, we'll let you know. We're going to create an event packet for you. That event packet's going to have all of our logistics, all of our travel, everything in it. And we're going to send that packet to you so you know exactly when we arrive, exactly when we get to the event. I'm going to text you when I get on my plane, so you don't have to worry if I've made my plane or not. I'm going to text you when I arrive. And then afterwards, we'll do a debrief, and that's just $15,000. And then you just shut up. You just shut your mouth and you let them deal with whatever they're going to deal with. They're either going to go, oh, great. Or they're going to be like, golly, that's a lot of money, right? Like, you don't know how people respond. Some people fall off the chair. Some people feel like it's comfortable. Okay. So once you quote the price, you're listening for how they respond. Do they go, okay, great. That sounds great. Okay, wonderful. Or do they go, oh my gosh, that was way more than we expected. And then whatever they say, you just deal with it. You just clean that up, right? So after I quote the price, they'll say whatever they're going to say. I'm hopefully looking for a positive affirmation. If they give me like a, ooh, that's way more than we thought, then you can say this if you'd like to. You don't have to, but you can. Does that fit within your budget? And then they can say yes or no. If they say no, it doesn't fit within our budget, this is the magic phrase that you use. Out of curiosity, how close to that number do you think you can get with the budget that you have? This is key. How close to that number do you think you can get within your budget? Because what you need to know about budgets is people have like, their budget could be $5,000 to $10,000 for a speaker. Does that make sense? If you ask them what their budget is, they're going to say $5,000. But they actually know they can go 5 to 10 if they know what their budget is. So you say, how close can you get to my number based upon your budget? So if my number is 15, they're most likely going to say, well, we can probably do 10. And then at that point you go, yes, right? Or no, like if you're going to say no. Okay. Now, once you've uncovered their budget and you've agreed upon terms, you're 2 exits away from being done. You are not done yet. Now you want to find out what their decision-making process is. This is very, very important, okay? In terms of decision-making, who else besides yourself is part of deciding whether this partnership happens? This is very big. I would never ask someone, who makes the decision? Are you the decision maker? I would never ask that. That's too like straightforward. So I always assume they're part of it. So I say, who else besides you is part of this decision-making process? And then they're going to say, it's just me, which it never is. There's usually, sometimes there's a committee typically, right? So they'll tell you who it is. And then you go, okay, great. Do we need to meet with them? Once I understand their decision-making process, like they're going to tell me, I got to go back to my committee. I got to go to this. I got to do that. They're going to tell me what all it is. And now I need to figure out what I need to do to get closer to a yes. So let's assume they say, well, we have a committee. I need to bring this back to the committee and see what they think. This is the magic of what you say, okay? So the next thing that you're going to say is, if the decision is up to a committee, you do what I call the thermometer close, okay? The thermometer close. Now, the thermometer close sounds like this. Okay, you got to bring it back to your committee. Makes all the sense in the world. I'm just curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, if the decision was solely up to you, which I understand that it's not in this case, but let's say it was. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is, I 100% definitely want to make this happen with you as our speaker, and number 1 is you hate me and you hope that I get hit by a bus one day and you never see me again. Where do you see yourself falling on that 1 to 10 scale based on our conversation here today? I'm looking for a 7, 8, 9, or 10. If I get anything less than a 7, I've pretty much lost the deal. You just bite the bullet and move on emotionally. It's over. Okay. I'll show you how to recover if anyone's interested. But typically, if you've done all this, you should get a 7, 8, 9, or 10. Now, this is the key. If they say, oh my gosh, 9. Oh, if it was up to me, 10. What you've just done is made them your champion. Now, if anyone's ever done any kind of sales, you know that you need a champion within an organization to make a sale happen. No sales with companies work without champions. You need someone on the committee who's going to be like, no, I'm Ann's cheerleader. I want Lisa to get it. I want Josh in here. I'm going to do everything I can. If they verbally say 8, 9, or 10, they've pretty much just become your champion because they're saying, I'm going to champion bringing you in. You never told them to be your champion. You never asked them to be your champion, but they've just committed to being your champion because they can't say they're a 10 and then go back to the committee and go, well, I think Josh Stinton would be pretty good. I mean, how many people do you know that walk on air? Like, I think, no, they're going to be like, he's the best in the biz. We got to bring him in. He understands us. But they're going to actually fight for you. Now, if you get anything less than a 7, this is what you can do to potentially salvage it. But you may not. So if you don't feel bad, but this is the best bet you have to salvage it. So let's say they go, I'm like at a 4. Go, okay, got it. Just out of curiosity, what would it take to move you from a 4 closer to a 10? That question is actually uncovering objections. That's your objection uncovering question. So, hey, you're at a 4, totally fine. Everything's always okay, by the way. 4, totally fine. Just out of curiosity, what would it take to move it closer to a 10? And they're going to tell you what their objections are. Well, the budget, it's way too much. Like, I don't think we can afford you. And like Lois, like, we know you're worth it. We just can't afford you. Or they're going to say, there's like 5 other speakers that I still have to interview and I got to see what they have to. They're going to tell you whatever their objection is. And then you just clean up the objection if you can clean it up. If budget is the issue, let's talk about budget. What were you hoping for that it wasn't? Now, if they say we want, you're $15,000, we only have $500, well, maybe you don't do it, right? But if you had 15,000 and they say we only have 12,500, well, then like you make a concession. Now, if you ever make a concession, this is how you make a concession, okay? By the way, am I going too detailed? Please tell me if I'm like, I geek out about this stuff and I don't want y'all to be like, this guy's going too detailed. It's not helpful, okay? Because you zoned out, okay? In the chat, just so I don't feel like I'm a philosophy professor talking to a room full of people who don't care, because we're coming to the end of the half hour here. I just want to see if this is actually helpful. Okay, keep going. All right, great. Okay, thank you, team. Okay, now, if I do a concession, this is how my concession sounds, okay? Let's say they say it's budget. We don't have 15,000. We can only do 10,000. Well, then I would ask this. Well, I'm just curious. I'm not sure if I could do it for 10, but let's assume I could do it for 10. If I could do it for 10,000, where would you fall on the 1 to 10 scale? Oh my gosh, I'd be a 10 right now. I'm looking for that kind of response. Or I might ask for a trade. Okay, look, I totally get that. What about this? Are you gonna have a videographer there by chance? Oh, well, we could get a videographer. Is there any way you could professionally record my presentation? And then if you could give me access to that recording, I'd be happy to do it for 10 because the recording would be super valuable to me. Oh yeah, we'd be happy to do that. People can make you a title sponsor. They can give you a list. They can do photography and videography for you. So there's lots of things that you can do that have a high value for you, that isn't like for me to hire a film crew, that would cost me thousands of dollars. If they can do it for me, I mean, they might be doing it anyway. I just spoke at a conference. They were filming it anyway. So like, give it to me. Yeah. Okay. So once they give me their scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 9, if it's solely up to them, by the way, I ask them, hey, okay, great. It's just up to you on a scale of 1 to 10. Where would you say this is? They give me their answer, right? Now this is where all of your effort will fail. If you don't do, this is the last step. This is the last exit. You have to be very, very, very clear on the next step. If you'd like to know how to get to the last step, hold on one second. This is my favorite question, okay? So now, I talked about budget. I say, hey, and we talked about budget and we figured out budget. Now that budget has been assembled, this is the only thing that you have to say. This is literally Do you want to know what your close is? I'm going to give you your close. This is your close. Ready? So what would you like to do from here? That's the close. You put it on them. They're going to sell themselves. I'm not saying, do you want me to send you a contract? Do you want me to send you a proposal? I simply say, so what would you like to do from here? And they're going to say, oh, well, you know, and this happens rarely. They'll say, oh, well, could you send us a contract? Could you send us a contract? I'd be happy to send you a contract. And then I grab the details. What, you know, what's the name? What's the address? Blah, 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 right? But normally they can't usually make a decision right then and there. They have to bring it back to the committee. So they'll say, well, what I'd like to do next is maybe if you can send me some information, I'll go back to my committee, I'll present it to them and see what they have to say. If anyone ever says, send me information, do not just send them information, okay? Do not just send them information. If someone says to you, could you send me some information so I can bring it? Yes, Lisa, I can share my speaking contract with you. If someone ever says, could you send me information? I go, happy to send you some stuff. Happy to send you stuff. Just out of curiosity, I don't want to send you a bunch of stuff that's not like relevant to you. What would you like me to send you? This is very important. I cannot stress why this is important. Prospects are conditioned to say, send me stuff. Well, what do you want? Do you want my contract? Is that stuff? Is my W-9 stuff? Is my presentation description stuff? I want them to say, well, what do they want? And then they probably never thought about it. So they'll go, oh my gosh, maybe you can send me maybe like a video of you speaking. And I go, okay, cool. How about I do this? And then now I know all the stuff I have. So I'll say something like this. How about I do this? Would it be helpful? So first of all, I ask them, what stuff do they want? And then they either give me a very clear thing on what they want, or they're not sure. This is what I then say. I say, how about I do this? I give you a video of me speaking so you can, you know, share a clip of me with your group. I'll send you, I send my Talkadot profile, right? I'll send you a link with all of the data from my past presentations, as well as links to all of those speaking engagements so that you can see what other people have said about me that's completely unedited, so you can get a real understanding of what my impact is with data and what my audience has to say. Would it make sense for me to send, and then I ask this as a question, would it make sense? Would it make sense for me to send you over an agreement and a W-9 at this point, or is that too early? So I'm doing a little trial close. And if they go, no, send that over, then it's pretty much you got the deal. Like it's just a dog and pony show at this point. They're gonna go to their committee and be like, I think this, if they actually ask you to send an agreement, it's pretty much a done deal. If they go, no, I think that other stuff will be just fine. You say, great, I'm gonna send that over to you. Happy to send that over to you. I'm just curious. And then I do this. I pull out my calendar on my phone. I say, all right, I'm looking at my calendar right now. Today's Tuesday, May 30th, right? When do you think you're going to meet with your committee? Oh, I'm going to meet with them June 5th. Great, you're going to meet with them June 5th. When do you think would be a good time for us to reconnect to see how that meeting went on June 5th? And then they're going to say, oh, you know, maybe like within 2 weeks, you know, like 2 weeks or something like that. Okay, great. So according to my calendar, you're going to meet with them on June 5th. I'm going to be out of town. I got a speaking engagement on the 6th. So that's really good that we're not meeting on the 6th, actually. See what I'm doing here? Let's go. Does the 21st work? It does? Great. Around 2 o'clock, that works for me. Does that work for you? Great. So June 20. So I'm going to send you all the information. June 21st at 2 p.m. We're going to see what they have to say. Does that sound good? That sounds great. I'll send you a calendar invite. Is that helpful? Okay, great. So I'll shoot you the email. I'll meet with you June 21st at 2 p.m. Anything else you need from me before we go? Okay, great. And we're good. This is very, very important. You do not want to go, cool, I'll send you some stuff. How many people, just do me a favor, give me a yes in the chat. Has anyone ever gotten stuck in this place where someone said they'll get back to you and they never get back to you? And then you're following up with them and following up with them. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm calling. Why are they not answering my call? Why are they not emailing me? And then you feel like you're like a stalker. That's because you didn't do step 7. You got to get a clear next step. So whenever I say, oh, they got to take it back to the committee, I look at my calendar. Okay, great. Today is May 30th. When do you think you'll meet with the committee next? Oh, we have a meeting on this date. Awesome. When do you think we should meet after you meet with them, just so you can update me on things happening? You've got to get the date. If you don't get that clear next step, then you're in this wishy-washy gray area, and then you become a stalker, and none of us are in the business of being stalkers. None of us, okay? If you are in the business of being a stalker, please get out of Talkadot. We're not interested in your kind, okay? So by doing the clear next step, you always know what's happening next, and they know what's happening next. Now, if things go well, they're gonna message you before the 2 weeks. Isn't that what they do when you get a contract? They email you, just so you know, you got it. If you ever get someone who acts like that, that means they're your champion. You got it. We got it. You'll hear that. We got the contract. We're gonna send it. You know, like that means they're your champion. It's really, really good. So you want to have a clear next step. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'm gonna and this is the script for Do You Have Your calendar in front of you? The last thing I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna pause, is the pain recap email. Okay. Now, after the meeting is over, and I think Susan said that she goes into Otter AI and she pulls out their exact language, right? After the meeting is over, I send a follow-up email. In that email, I do the pain recap. Hey, Joe, hope you're doing awesome. Really excited about reconnecting with you at this date, at this time. I'll give you a call at this number over via Zoom. And then I go into, based on our conversation, you said this, you said that, you said this, you're dealing with this problem. We're gonna solve all that problem for you in a 60-minute keynote. Here's what the pricing is. Here's the link to my video. Here's the link to my Talkadot. Let me know if you need anything else. Look forward to reconnecting. Send. So that recap email becomes that thing that they might forward to people, that they might share with people. It revisits pricing, it revisits their pain points, it revisits how you're gonna solve it. So if it's 2 weeks from now, they still can remember what it is that you all talked about. So this is the process, y'all. I'm gonna pause here, and I'm gonna, and if anyone's curious, all of it is right here, okay? So these are the 7 steps. Like, you understand them much more deeply because I went really deep into them, but each step gives example questions of what to ask on each one of the exits. You just sit back, ask the questions, let them answer, take your notes, repeat it, then send them the follow-up email. And this is gonna, and here's the best part. You're not always gonna get a yes, okay? You're not always gonna get a yes. And I want you to understand that. There's no one who closes 100% of their presentations. But what you will get is a yes or a no. And I'll be honest with you, I much prefer, hold on. I think my internet's dying on me here. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? Dang it. Okay, you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, you can hear me. Yeah, there's a cat that's in my, it's actually not my cat, if anyone's curious. I don't own a cat. That's my neighbor. There's just a random cat that goes around the neighborhood and comes in my house. And he's become my buddy. And he likes to come into my office. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here. I don't even, this is not a cat. This is no one's, this is not my cat. This is just a cat that likes to come into my house, and he's become my pet that I don't have any responsibility with, which in my opinion is the best kind of pet. It's the best kind of pet. Anyway, so you won't get you'll get a yes and you'll get a no, but you won't get maybes. And the reason why that's so important is because a maybe is where you follow people and you chase people and you run after people. And that's what actually lowers your confidence level as a presenter, because you're like, if I'm so great, why am I chasing people? I would rather someone say no and say, we can't afford you, or no, it's not going to work. And then we move on, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, versus them like make me chase them for 6 months. Now, does that mean that you still don't have to follow up with people? No, of course you will. Does that mean that you still don't have to like send emails to check in? Yeah, you probably will, but you'll do it a lot less. And you're always maintaining control. So you're always the expert, you're always in a position of power. And that's super, 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 super important, because this always maintains that we are the expert, which we are in our space, and we should be treated as so. Okay, so that is the sales training. You do all the marketing, all the stuff we do from the previous ones. That's gonna get you people on the phone. Now we've shown you how to close the people with the phone, how to use your Talkadot on the pain recap email to make sure that you're closing it. And you've got a system now. Now, out of curiosity, in the chat, give me a yes if you felt like this was actually helpful today. Give me a yes if this was valuable. Was this helpful? Yes, of course. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. C. Elena says C. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. So kind. Well, the absolute best way to pay me back is to let me know what you thought about this presentation. I want to know what you liked about it so I can do more of it. I want to know what you disliked about it so I can improve upon it. And the only way that I can do that is with your thoughts and feedback. So this is what I'm going to do. In the chat, I am going to put a link. Okay. You can go ahead and click on that link right there in the chat and put in the code SUPER. If you put in the code SUPER, as a thank you for giving me your feedback, I'm going to give you access to the PDF that I just showed you with a whole bunch more information. Okay. So the Super Sales Highway, it's a huge document that I created. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't make you not want to read it, but it has everything that we talked about. It's got the recaps in it. Look at this. Hold on, let me scroll up here. Wait, where'd it go? Yeah, right. So it's got everything that you need in it. It's got examples of scripts of what if people say this, you say that. Let me go a little bit more. Oh my gosh, it's got so much cool stuff. Words we say, words we don't say. We got examples of little lifesavers of what to do in the worst case scenario. This is a really, really full document. This is an example of what to say in each one of the stages, a script, if you work better with scripts, of what might happen and what to do. Oh, look, it's all right there for you. And I'm going to give this to you completely as a thank you for giving me your thoughts and feedback. And all you got to do is click on that link and let me know what your thoughts are. If you are fancy, you can take out your phones and open up your camera app and scan the QR code. And if you scan that QR code, it'll automatically put super into the code and just fill it out. Let me know what your thoughts are. Answer it honestly, of course. And when you are done giving me your feedback, just do me a favor and put done in the chat so I know you're done. And then I'll open it up for Q&A. And since this is our last time, I'll stay to the top of the hour. So if anyone has to go, of course, I respect your schedule and I appreciate that. But I'm going to answer any questions. And usually the Q&A is the most valuable part because this is where we can really dive into the content and material and make it real and applicable and practical. So I'll be quiet now. I see some dones coming into the chat. By the way, did you see how I just teed up Talkadot? That's how I do it. That's literally how I do it. That's how I do it. That's what you just saw. That's how I tease up the Talkadot. So I'll do that 1,000 times with y'all because I think like repetition is the mother of all learning. So yeah, so do that. All right, I'll wait a few more moments for you to type done into the chat. And then if anybody has any questions and you're done, just go ahead and hit the raise your hand function and then we'll unmute, ask questions and have some fun. But for everyone else, take your time, continue to fill it out. We're not gonna go into the Q&A just yet. I'm gonna let my cat out. It's not my cat, but the cat wants to go back outside. I'm gonna let the cat out. I'm gonna be right back. Okay, Davin, let the cat out. Thank you. So literally the cat comes to my door, it meows. I let him in and I pet him. And then when he's done, he goes to the door and he meows and then we let him out. This cat kills things, just so you know. It's killed birds. It's killed chipmunks. And you know what it does? It brings it to our doorstep as a gift for us. And I looked this up and apparently it's a highest form of a cat showing appreciation for you, but it's very unnerving to see a shredded up mouse on your doorstep. I just want to put that out there for any of you cat lovers. I'm not used to this. I've only had dogs. Okay.
Murder is love, Burrell.
What's that?
Murder is love.
Apparently with cats. Okay, cool. Let's go to questions and Q&A. Thank you all for giving me your feedback. It really does help and support. And again, all of you will get access to the recording of this as well as the PDF document with, I'm gonna give you the image as well as the whole thing. So happy about it. All right. Yes, so someone asked me about the recordings. If you can send me your email, I'll make sure to give you an email with all of the information you need for any past recordings. And we're gonna get all of these trainings onto one page eventually. Right now it's not, but we'll get them all there so you can just go access them. And you'll have access to these indefinitely because you're Talkadot Pro and you invest in us and we invest in you. Do me a favor, if you know anyone who's a free Talkadot user, Tell them about today. Tell them about your experience and be like, how are you not Talkadot Pro? Shame them. We just need 2 people to be shamed enough, okay? We just need 2 people. If you shame 2 people and they feel that shame and upgrade to Pro, we have a banner month. Just put it out there. Okay. In the document you are sharing, are you including the most important questions you suggest we ask? Yes, exactly. As an example of an email to send after the call. Yes, that's all in there. And I think we'd bring you. Wait, what did you say? I think we'd all bring you dead thanks for all the great information. Thank you. And that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. We will bring you dead things, just like a cat. Yeah, very cool. Yep, Kathy, I have to find the code that we used and then I'll send that to you, Kathy. Cool. Other questions? I covered a lot. This is definitely one of those things that it's like you could probably revisit it, read the document, listen to this again. This is definitely very practical, and there's so much more of the deeper psychology of why it's in this order and how it stacks on each other and why you shouldn't go back to a stage, which I didn't have the time, nor do I think you want me to go into all that depth. But once you finish an exit, just like on a highway, you don't hit reverse. You never hit reverse on these. So you don't go back, you just go forward. So you got to do them in the order we gave you because that's the order they're supposed to be presented. I'm going to ask John, then Susan, then Josh. So John says, how does Talkadot create more authentic and intentional relationships? If you have stories, please let me know before I want to curate it. Oh, yes. So John Register is going to be presenting at Influence, which is NSA's flagship event. So if anyone has any great stories or any great, what's the word? Not allegory, vignettes. I'm trying to use language that's beyond my pay grade. But please let John Register know. John, I don't know if you feel comfortable putting in your email or maybe your LinkedIn or wherever you might want people to send it to you or your Facebook page. Please send that to John because that would be super, super helpful. Anecdotes. Thank you, Stephanie. Golly, I could not get the word out. Stephanie is clearly more educated than me. Susan, what's your question?
So I want to go back to the committee,
Yes.
right? So we're dealing with a decision maker, but she has to go back to the committee.
Mhm.
Let's talk about being sneaky. Let's talk about getting closer to having more than one advocate. How do we get close to the other people on the committee? Do you ever outwardly say, what are the names of those other people who are deciding? Would it make sense to set up a call with them? Do you start connecting with them on LinkedIn and Twitter and making them your best friends?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So here's what I typically say. So Susan, you're going to be the event organizer who's my sales point of contact, and you have a committee, and I'll walk you through how I do it, right? I don't always get it, so no one gets it 100%, but I'll show you what I do. So Susan, just out of curiosity, who besides yourself is part of the decision-making process on selecting a speaker for this event?
Oh, well, there's a committee of people working on the event.
Oh, awesome. How many people are on the committee?
8.
8 people. Oh my gosh. Now, do all 8 of those people find their own speaker and bring it back, or do they just decide on the speakers you bring it?
We're all kind of collaborating, someone's working on, one part of the agenda, someone else is working on another part of the agenda, but we're trying to get it to flow,
Absolutely. So some people do the agenda and not speakers, and some people are finding the speakers. Is that what I'm understanding?
Or both, they're responsible for the morning part of the agenda, so they get the speakers for the morning, and I'm responsible for the afternoon. And there's 3 tracks to the event, so there's lots of speakers happening during the course of the day.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, great. So you're doing is there anyone besides you that's doing afternoon speakers, or is it just you for the afternoon?
Oh, Jill and Janie and Jamie, we're all working on it together. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Now, Jill, you said, was it Jill?
Jill and Jamie and Janie.
Jill, Jamie, and Janie. You got the J crew. J crew.
Yes.
So Jill, Jamie, and Janie obviously way better than I do. When you present what we talked about here to them, what do you think they're going to say?
Tough audience, but I mean, they'll listen. Yeah, they're open.
Yeah. And do you think that there's anything that was like a clear red flag for Jill, Jane, or Jamie based on what we talked about?
No, I'm not really sure what's their priority. we're all just kind of bringing who we think is right to the table.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely the right decision to do, because at the end of the day, what matters most is that you put together the best event possible. So I hope, obviously, I would love for you, Jill, you said Janie?
Jamie, and Janie.
Jamie. Okay, is it Jamie with a Y-M-E? I always curious how people spell Jamie.
I-E.
Okay, I'm just curious. It's a weird thing I like to do. But anyway, I'll shoot you over the information, and that sounds good. Calendar, date, blah, 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 blah. Now, here's what I do. I know your name is Susan Linder, right? So now what I would do, because I asked for the name and they didn't say the first and last name, you just said the first name. So what I do is I go, okay, and this is where it gets like, yeah, Rel is a little bit meh, right? So I'll go into Google and put in Susan Linder, the company name, and then I'll put in Jamie and Janie and Jill into Google. Now, if you've ever done anything with these people before, it'll pop up, and then I'll get Janie Seymour, Jamie, blah, 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 right? So I'll look for that. The next thing that I'll do is I'll go on to LinkedIn, and I know I can find you. On LinkedIn, you can actually search people's friends. So
Right.
I'm going to go to the search function on Susan, and I'm going to type in Jamie and your business name, Janie and your business name. And I'm going to see if there's like 1 or 2 or 3 people that match that. Now, I'm not reaching out to those people personally because they don't know me. I'm just trying to get a sense of, do I know them? I'm in a perfect world, they would have a mutual connection to me. And I'll go, oh my gosh, Bob, Nan knows them. Nan, I'm trying to get in with Jamie. Oh, can you send her a message saying that you know me? Oh gosh, Jamie's my homegirl. Of course. So like, I'm looking for if there's someone that I would know, and if there's no one that I know that's connected to them that can put in a good word for me, I don't personally reach out to them. What I will do is in that decision-making process, if they say there's more than one person, I'll say, well, what do you think they'll say? If it's appropriate, I might say something to the effect of, well, when we meet up again, would it make sense to have them on the call? So we're meeting June 21st at 2 p.m. Would it make sense for them to be on the call with me by chance? And then you'll say, yeah, that might actually be a good idea. Or no, I got it from there. So I never push and I never do anything that's uncomfortable, but I'm being clear on, I'm trying to discover who the person is. Once I discover who it is, I would like to try to get an introduction, not an introduction, like a warm contact to say something nice about me to them. If I can't get that, I'm going to potentially see if it makes sense for them to be on the call, but I'm going to gauge it because this is where it gets a little nuanced, Susan. If I'm talking to someone, and I'm saying this respectfully, do you know there's some people who are like, I am the biggest, best person in the whole wide world, and I make all decisions, and I sit on a throne with a scepter, and they really don't. I don't want them to feel like I don't trust them. So if they're giving me those vibes, I'm like, well, you're clearly the most important person. Like, you make all the decisions. I'm actually like advocating for how important they are, because if they give me an 8, 9, or 10 and I advocate how important they are and they confirm how important they are and then they don't get it, they actually feel really bad, so they actually fight harder to get you. So that's kind of the nuance there, that like it also depends on like what vibe I get from the person. So that's what I do. If there's a better way, I'm very much open to getting it, but that's how I approach it.
I think I'm more of a promiscuous connector. Like, I'll connect with everyone on LinkedIn in that universe.
Hey,
And
listen.
then hope that when they get together for the committee meeting, that they'll see that we're all connected already and that there'll be some kind of mutual parity around it. But I was just very curious about your approach, Arel. Thank you.
Hey, listen, if, like I said, there's so many ways to be successful in this business. And if being, I like that term, a promiscuous connector has been working, keep doing it. Maybe I need to be a little bit more promiscuous. I'm a little too much monogamy in my contactual nature, you know.
Good
Thanks,
thought.
Susan. Josh.
Arel, thank you for everything as always.
Thanks, brother.
One question and a point that I would like to share how I go about the magic wand thing. Maybe
Yes,
it's useful for some folks. One question is, I saw a bunch of folks in the chat. I think that I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of people that we're trying to invite ourselves into your desk drawer and take a look at that contract. Maybe not your contract specifically, but definitely a template.
I'm happy to send the one that I send. Yeah, I can send it out. Happy to do that.
Yeah, man, that would be super helpful. And another part, I love that magic wand analogy. And one way that's actually been quite helpful for me in having that conversation is saying like, so I'll refer to the event date and say, okay, if it's going to be June 15th, say you and your team and I sit down on June 20th, and you're saying that that event was absolutely perfect because, can you tell me what those becauses are? And because it kind of puts them in that space of the event is done, it's a success, and they're talking to me again. So it kind of reiterates the fact that you're in that narrative as a success.
This is why Josh is intelligent, because what you're doing is you're future pacing, which is very smart. You're putting him into a future set. It's already happened. I've seen the success, and now I'm coming back into that. You know what? You might do a keynote where you do strategies where you have people go into the future, achieve goals, think about things that might be a challenge, and then come back. I think you got something there, Josh.
Well, to be fair, I just stole off of someone that's much smarter than me and rebranded it. So thank you.
I think that's what all smart people do. Yeah, no, but I do love what you're saying, because by future pacing and going into the future, it creates a more emotional connection. So instead of from now looking at it, you're from there looking past, and it's actually really smart. It's really smart. Thank you, Josh. Stephanie, did you have a question?
I did. Hey, thanks. I'm curious about something. When you were doing the sample scenario and you were talking to the event professional saying, well, when are you going to meet with the committee? And the committee, she said the 5th, and you said, well, how about if I'm looking at my calendar and I see the 21st? How about if I call you the 21st? Now, I know that you planted the seed that you had another speaking engagement, but is that the only reason why you gave such a huge window instead of saying, I'll be back the 9th and I'll talk to you then, and tightening it up?
So in that scenario, they told me, let's connect to, so it's whatever they give me is what I go with. So if I say, so like say, for example, if I was talking to you, Steph, and I say, hey, when do you meet with your committee? And they say on the 5th. I say, great, they meet on the 5th. When would be a good time for us to reconnect after the 5th? If she says the 6th, I go, oh, the 6th is perfect. So whatever they give me is what I say is perfect. And if they say it's 2 or 3 weeks into the future, I then will always go, oh, that's perfect, because I'm going to be out of town for a week anyway. So I'm like letting them know, like, I'm busy. Like, I'm not sitting around waiting for you. You know, so if they say it's 2 or 3 or 4 weeks out, I go, oh, that's perfect, because I actually have a lot of traveling I'm doing during that time. So when you want to do it is actually, so whenever they want to do it is perfect. That's kind of how it works. Whatever they want to do it is perfect for whatever the reason is.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. We got 4 more minutes, folks. This is your chance to ask whatever questions you want.
Earl, I have a question for you.
What's up, brother?
For those of us who are, we'll call it in friend zone, how do we get out of friend zone? What do we do when we're stuck in that place that we don't want to be, that you advise us to avoid getting into?
Yeah, so the great answer is learn next time to not get in it. Like once you're in, a lot of people call it voicemail jail, or like you said, the friend zone. It's just a tough place to be, honestly. I don't know any really good way to get out of it except the 5 follow-up sequence that you're familiar with. So you say, hey, I sent you an email, haven't heard from you, would hate to bother you. If it got sent to, if you didn't get it, that's okay. If you've been busy, that's okay. Let me know. Hey, this is the 4th email I sent. I haven't heard from you. If I send someone 4 emails and they don't respond, or if I call them 3 times and they don't respond, it means they're either super busy or they really do not want to talk to me, and I would hate to ever bother you. And then the 5th one is this. I put like last response or last attempt in the email subject, or I'll leave a voicemail. And it's called the breakup email or the breakup voicemail. And it's like, hey, listen, not going to call you again after this. I've left 4 messages. I want to be persistent, but I never want to be a pest. And I have this feeling like I might be getting into pest territory, which is something I would never want to do. So if you do want to talk about the event, please hit me back. If not, have a wonderful life. I will not reach out to you about this again. Take care. So it's respectful, but it's very clear that like I'm breaking up with you. You're not breaking up with me. Now they may just totally ignore you, but once you're in that gray zone, it's always like hard to get out of it, unfortunately. So the best way to deal with it is to sometimes cut your losses, and then moving forward, do that step 7 to get that clear next step.
And if, let's just say, like, I don't know how other people on the call are, but I can tell you for myself, there are a bunch of people who I've had these initial calls with, and it seems to have gotten well. I definitely didn't implement all the strategies that you've shared on this call. but it seems to have gone well. But and then I took it to email, and now it's just kind of in email. Is the goal to try to initiate another phone call now? And
Yeah, you want to do a
after
catch up.
phone
So the
phase?
goal once you're following up with folks, the goal is to do a catch up call.
Okay.
Hey, let's jump on the phone and get caught up. If it's, I give him an option. Let's jump on the phone and get caught up. If it's easier, feel free to shoot me an email. You just want to get an update. And then it's always fine, whatever they want to do. If you're not interested in working with me anymore, it's totally fine. Just let me know, because I'd hate to pester you. So you say that. Let me know. It's totally fine if you don't want to reach out. I just don't want to pester you. But if you do want to talk, please let me know. And I would do 5 emails before I like give up personally. But the goal is to get caught up, and they can do phone or email, whatever is their preference. Because their email might be, we chose someone else. Or they just might ignore you. And that's possible.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Banny, you're going to be the last question, Fred.
Yes, sir.
What's up, brother?
Yeah. How you doing, man? Great course always. I just left it. I left it in the chat. I was saying, say for example, in like the education space, right? Is this breakup permanent, or will you say for next season or next semester or so forth? Will you ever reach out again, or just like?
Oh yeah, I would absolutely reach out again. Like if I'm doing like, so for example, like if I'm in voicemail jail or friend zone or the gray zone, right? And I'll go, hey, I'm not going to reach out about this event anymore, right? I want it to feel like I'm leaving. Because the moment someone can't have something is when they want it. When you give something to someone is when they don't want it, right? So you want to take yourself away. And if they don't like play and they don't bite, that's cool. I would wait a few months, but if you're doing like a promotional email, yeah, check back in with them. No problem whatsoever. It's not like you have to be like, you're dead to me. I've never talked to you ever. It's not like that serious. You can always check back in with them, and there's no issue with it. I would give it a little space though.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't do it in like a week. I would do it in like 3 months or something. You know, I wouldn't do it right away.
For sure. Excellent. Thank you, bro.
You're welcome. I love your beard. Every time I see you, I know I say this every time I see you, Fred, but it's the best.
Oh, can I ask you like a half a question? So I got invited to keynote my brother's keeper empowerment brunch, right? It's not paid. I'm doing it for a friend, a woman to come to speak to the young men. So it's like 10 to 15 minutes. So it's no big deal. So I was thinking about, because it's not a long time, right? What would you suggest as far as like incorporating Talkadot into that? I reached out to them to see what the setup is, if they will even have like a projection where I could put the QR code on board. I haven't heard back yet, but just preemptively thinking through, will you say that's a space I should do it, or not really bother?
Yeah, I mean, one, if it's a free presentation, whenever I do anything that's free, I'm always asking myself, what is the most authentic way for me to get more out of it, right? So if it's a free presentation, can I get some video? Even if it's video on my phone, can I get pictures? Can I get Talkadot data just so I can have like, hey, I spoke to this great organization, My Brother's Keeper, and here's this great data that I got. So I can get data that I can show. So I would 100% use Talkadot, especially like for free events, because it allows you to get more miles out of it. You get more, versus it just happens and then it's gone. It's ephemeral. It just disappears. Now you have data to show that you've done work. And if you ever speak to a group in the future that's similar, you've got more data as well.
Right. Plus, it's going to be like 200 people, and I'm sure there's people in the audience who might be able to book me. So that's the reason why I'm even considering doing it. But I was just looking at the time; it's 10 to 15 minutes. But I was just like, I could still do it.
Oh, you only have 10 minutes to speak.
That's the thing. That's the main part. Not so much of the free part. Like that part I could leverage.
So if you had 10 or 15 minutes, I would do your normal. Like, it's really hard to do Talkadot in a 10-minute talk. You know what I mean? Like, you're on a lectern, it's like 10. I would do the 10 minutes, then I would tee up Talkadot and bounce. Like, that's the only situation in which because normally I would say, tee it up there. I would tee it up at the end. So I'm getting something, but I know I'm not going to get 60 to 80% of the audience. I know I'm going to get like 20% of them. I would still tee it up at the end, because 10 minutes, you've got to go all content for 10 minutes. If it was 30 minutes, I would 100% do Talkadot. If it's 10 minutes, there's no fat on the presentation. Yeah. There's no fat on that presentation. So I would just do the 10 minutes and then, I would just do 10 minutes and that's it. And then throw it up at the end.
Okay, when you should tee it up, just talk about it, have it up there, and just leave the podium, whatever. So whoever's capture, and you can always
That's 100.
circle back with people afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's
All
100%.
right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Uni, for a 20-minute presentation, it really depends if you can do it in 15. If you can do a 20-minute presentation in 15 minutes, then yes, I would do Talkadot. But in 10 minutes, there's no fat on that presentation. All right, I know we're over an hour. I said I'd be done at the top of the hour. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was good for everybody. I love doing these. I love being connected with y'all. It's so much fun to share and learn. I learn from you every time that I do it. So thank you for all being so kind and so wonderful. Thank you for your feedback. Feel free to go into the Facebook group and create some FOMO. I'm going to post the data from it as well. But I love when y'all post your FOMO posts. Oh my gosh, we got the keys, baby. Call DJ Khaled because there's another one. Don't say that. That's not really, I wouldn't say that. That one's not the greatest one to say, but you get what I'm trying to say. I'm going to hang up here because this is being recorded and I've already feel bad now that I ended it. Okay, peace out. Love you all.